Hi, this is Jim Lange. This is the first of a series of videos on what I would consider the best estate plan for married couples with traditional families. It is particularly important given where we are in terms of the potential tax changes coming for what we have been calling the death of the stretch IRA. This is when your IRA, at least according to the proposed law that the Senate Finance Committee has voted 26-0 to recommend to Congress, your IRA, subject to exception, would be taxed to the full extent. In other words, your kids would have to pay income tax on the entire inherited IRA within 5 years of your death. So one of the things that you can do now, before the law has passed, yet with this standing in the shadow of this potential change, is very, very flexible estate planning, which it just so happens is perfectly consistent with what we have been doing for probably the last 25 years, which we call Lange's Cascading Beneficiary plan. All right, and before you say, oh, okay, here's some attorney who's come up with a plan and he thinks it's the best, but how do I know it's the best? This is what I will tell you. So I came up with a plan in the early 90s, and I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and I was incorporating it into the estate plans that I was actually drafting as an estate attorney. I was wondering what the peer reviewers would think of it, and I had a peer review article in 1998, and the peer reviewers loved it. Then, and without getting too technical, there was a change in the tax law that made it even more valuable. This was back in 2001, and I wrote a little article, actually went out by email, and it was called The Best Estate Plan for IRA Owners. And who picked up on it but Jane Bryan Quinn, and she published it in Newsweek. And then the Wall Street Journal picked up on it. Then Kiplinger's picked up on it. Then the Wall Street Journal picked up on it again. And then I wrote it up in a book called Retire Secure, and we did editions in 2006 and 2009 with Wiley. We did one self-published in 2015. By the way, you have access to that book. You can actually get it for free, or you might prefer a hard copy on Amazon, but it's Retire Secure by James Lange. You can find that at www.paytaxeslater.com/books and go to chapter 13, 14, and 15. That explains what the next several videos are going to explain also. So anyway, we have had now the other thing is we have had extensive experience with this. So we've been drafting these things since probably the mid-90s, and unfortunately many of those people have died. And we have seen what happens when people die with this plan in action, and the flexibility that this plan gives the heirs is really enormous. So what we have done is we have been able to provide or over-provide for the surviving spouse. And that's probably the most important thing. Nobody in the history of the world has ever come in to their estate planner and said, hey, I want my grandchildren to be so stinking rich they never have to work a day in their life. No, what do people say? They say, well, the first thing is to make sure that we're both okay during both of our lives, and after the first of our deaths, we want to make sure the survivor is okay. Well, the Lange's Cascading Beneficiary plan actually does that. But it also provides the right or the ability to have massive tax savings depending on the situation, and depending on the situation that we can't reasonably foresee right now. And we're going to be talking more about that. So what I'm going to be talking about is how to build flexibility into your estate plan, the use of a concept called disclaimer, and why this type of estate plan is so valuable, I would say anytime, but particularly now when we are standing in the shadow of what could be an enormously painful change in the tax law for IRA owners and their families. So what will happen is there's going to be a series of videos, and I'll talk about, let's say, a different aspect or how this will work with each one. But I'm going to try to keep it short because I know people have limited attention spans. But for whatever it's worth, I Back in the 90s, I thought that this was the best estate plan for married couples, particularly with those who have what I call traditional families, or leave it to beaver families, that is original husband, original wife, same kids, same grandkids. We have, again, drafted thousands of these. We've had experience with many people dying with them, and I still believe it is the best estate plan for traditional married couples. And in light of what we are calling the death of the stretch IRA, it is even more important to have. So the next video, we will start delving into some of the nitty-gritty and then talking about the different strategies. Thank you.